Hi there, hello and welcome to another session of our series where you and I sit down together and work on areas related to English. And I remember when we started this series, that was a while ago, and today we are so very close to getting into the 20s. And it is absolutely amazing to see some of you connecting with me here every day. So much so that although I don't know you by faces, but I look at these names and I know, right? So Sonali, Sri, it's absolutely fabulous. So make sure that you keep attending these sessions, and if it benefits you, do let me know so that we can at least go ahead and work even more closely together. So I welcome you to BYJU'S exam prep channel dedicated to your success as an MBA aspirant. My name is Vikrant, 22 years of teaching experience. I take care of things like English communication skills and psychological makeup. Additionally, if you need inputs with GDs, interviews, essay writing, all of those can also be had from me, and I act as your personal coach on this particular channel. And here is a special announcement. For a short while, we are offering a free trial of our BYJU'S exam prep courses. So I teach at BYJU'S exam prep, and we've designed one of the most comprehensive programs that you can benefit from, but we generally have this hesitation, right? We want to sample things before we join. So that's your way, that's your opportunity to sample even the course. Otherwise you obviously interact with us here, right? And if you are new to this channel, I at times forget to say that, right? If you're new here, what are you supposed to do? Of course, subscribe and press the bell icon so that you get a notification whenever I go live. Let's go ahead and start with our session today. As usual, here is a passage for you. Mentally prep up, bring in some focus, and once you are done reading the slide, let me know and I'll take you over to the next one. On every slide you'd see one paragraph. We have a passage which has around, I'd say, 510 words today, which is the kind of length that the IMs anyway gun for, right? So let's start. Here you go. Oh, and at times when we are not able to pronounce something correctly, we struggle. So there is a name here that you would come across very frequently, because the entire passage is about that person, and the pronunciation is Thucydides. So Thucydides. Let's hope that it makes it easier for you to read it. Now in the exam, obviously I'm not going to be with you to give you the pronunciation. So the trick is, it does not matter whether the pronunciation in your mind is right or wrong. Just pronounce whatever comes to your mind, stick to it, and remain consistent. Okay, that confidence will help you. So Thucydides. I hope you are able to see the video. The video at my end, ironically, is not working properly. Okay, now it is. Hi Kushag, good to see you here. Atul Krishna, good afternoon, man. Done, Shri, as usual, quite fast. So here you go. Let me take you over to the next slide. Oh, fantastic, guys. I hope you're done reading it. Give you another 10-15 seconds. Done? Fantastic. The next paragraph. Okay. Shraddha, we'll talk about it in a while, okay? I've read it, but since we are reading the passage, I thought that I'll give you that quiet. And here is the last paragraph on your screen. Okay, so once you are done, let's approach it in a slightly different way today. Okay, so I'm taking you back. So typically what we are supposed to do is get the key idea out of every paragraph as well. And this should answer your question, Ritik. My work claimed the ancient Athenian writer Thucydides was written as a possession for all time, not a piece of entertainment for the moment. भाई ये बंदा अगर आज पैदा हुआ होता तो इंस्टाग्राम के रील्स देख देख के क्या बोलता कि मतलब स्क्रॉल करे जा रहे हो, ये क्या है, इसमें कंटेंट क्या है. हाँ, एंड हिज रीजन वाज he felt that his work will be for all time because of the human thing. Now the Greeks called it anthropinon, a phrase similar to human nature but rather looser. So because of the human thing, events tend to be repeated in more or less similar ways. So humans have a particular nature. Because of that, they keep repeating the same things again and again. And then this is his claim about a particular war. But then the author goes ahead and says that, oh, well, people would not agree with the Thucydides that Peloponnesian War was the greatest event. However, there are things that he mentioned in his account that happen to have lasting relevance and importance beyond the war. And that is why he is the most cited author. And then the rest of the paragraph is devoted to it. So first paragraph, Thucydides, ancient Athenian writer, says that his work is for all times because human nature makes them repeat things. Then next paragraph, well, we don't agree with Thucydides on the fact that Peloponnesian War was the greatest event, but his account has implications beyond that specific war. Then the next one, the claim that Thucydides' account of the past is useful is often extended to his historiography in general. Ooh, that's a saucy little word right there. So what is historiography? If I try to define it simply, we'd say historiography is the writing of history. Now the problem is, when it comes to writing history, people can also go ahead and write propaganda. You just need to have one source and you can use that to say that this is truth. So if I look at it, the word historiography closely, it goes beyond the writing of history, okay? It actually talks about the writing of history based on the critical examination of various sources, and then the selection of particular details from the authentic material in those sources, and then synthesizing those details in a narrative that stands the test of critical examination. So there are times when you find multiple people writing about an event. They may have different things, but then all those different sources can at times happen to have the exact same things as well. So you can accept that, okay, when different sources say this happened, then that must be, or that is more likely to be true. So in this particular sentence, when you say the claim that Thucydides' account of the past is useful is often extended to historiography in general, that okay, rather than just to a specific and idiosyncratic approach, we are saying that his approach is actually educational for writing history, right? And so he say, okay, his writing is impactful for history, and then there are two different lessons, or the people interpret it in different ways and come up with different interpretations. So what are those interpretations? Number one, some people just look at his writing on the Peloponnesian War as a war, and then they enjoy the endless variety and complexity of human behavior as an end in itself, whereas others try to apply it to the present as well. And then the last one, that okay, you try to derive laws, but then those laws are not explicit. So he does not give you laws, he introduces you to the decision making process of the people, and perhaps you'd find that relevant to your present, because the human thing, the human nature, we repeat things again and again. So that's the crux. I did that because a couple of you told me that the passage is difficult. Now see, this passage essentially belongs to philosophy, and all that I want you to do is, if you come across these passages from the same subject matter, say whenever you read a passage on philosophy and it makes you feel that, oh, the passage is difficult, it is a very clear indicator that we are not familiar with philosophy. We haven't read much of it. So I would suggest that if you belong to that category, it'll be a great idea to read an introductory text to philosophy. Okay, so I generally recommend two books as introductory texts to philosophy. One of them is Sophie's World. It's essentially a philosophy textbook disguised as a story, fabulous read. And the other one is The Story of Philosophy by Will Durant. The first one is written by Jostian Gardier. So you can pick up one of these two books. If you want something easier, you can pick up Sophie's World. If you are comfortable with a little more complex language, you can pick up Story of Philosophy. Right? So both of these should work. So now that we are done with the passage, let's have a look at our questions. So question number 1 on your screen, what do you think should the correct answer be? Krishnan says, hi sir and bye sir, be kaam to kar le. If you're here, solve a passage, right? I generally recommend that you're supposed to go through at least one passage a day. So normally 10 passages a week is the bare minimum. And if you attend this session, your daily quota is usually done, over. So you notice when a question is designed, it is very easy to see where people can get confused. C and D are easy to eliminate. At the end of the day, the choice was between A and B. And if you look at A is broad. The central idea is not that his work is relevant in understanding the modern world. The central idea is that for some people, it can be useful to understand human behavior and underlying principles. And that is why you're absolutely right in picking up option B. Next question. Okay, guys, so what's your take on this one? So let's see. So A is false according to the last paragraph, the beginning of the last paragraph. His work has past events unconnected to the present. No, they happen to have a relevance to the present. It is mentioned at multiple locations, so this is also false. C, abstract laws and considerations are the underlying basis of his writings. No, contradicted by the last paragraph. So you're absolutely right in picking up D. So look at A, okay? His work offers explicit universal laws. Nope, let me take you back to the relevant part. Look at this sentence. He certainly does not offer explicit universal laws. So therefore A can also be ruled out. So thus our answer is D. His work can be interpreted in several ways. Remember, two possible interpretations and their implications mentioned in the second paragraph. Some people can read it just as an account of the war, and then there are some who can try to find out certain lessons for the present world. So that's why D is true. Here is your next question. Well, Himanshu, a little late today. Okay, so the answers are trickling in for this question. Let us see. So first up, the question asks us for something that is not a characteristic of Thucydides' work. So option A, his work can make us confront the complexity and unpredictability of the work. Absolutely. In the last paragraph, this is mentioned in a rather straightforward way. So there is a sentence that says rather Thucydides invites us to compare the events he describes with our situation and presents them in a way that confronts us with the complexity and unpredictability of the world. So this is true. So this is a characteristic. So A cannot be our answer. How about B? His work is driven by deliberations and decisions of people. Yup. Remember that line from the passage which said his narrative is driven not by abstract and inhuman laws but by deliberations and decisions of people. Last paragraph again. So B is also a characteristic. C, work can be understood as a simplistic historical analogy of the current world. In fact, the author explains that his work would not support the idea of searching for simplistic analogies for today's policy recommendations. So this is not a characteristic. How about D? Thucydides' work can help us understand the present and the future. Human thing. So it can be used to come up with some lessons, some principles, though they are not mentioned explicitly. It's possible to interpret them, and that is why in this particular question we should go ahead and pick up C as our answer. And with that, let me take you over to your next question. Pratyusha, look at D carefully. You notice the use of the word can. What does that mean? It's a possibility, right? So the option itself says, is it possible? So the option itself says it is possible. It does not say that it is definitive anyway. If it makes the definitive claim, then you are absolutely right. We could have ruled it out. Okay, oh my, you guys are on a roll today. Yes, the correct answer is B, and since you've managed to reject all the other options, I'll go with you on this. And here is your next question. So this is your typical inference-based question asked in a slightly different way. Okay. He would agree with all of the following except, so will he agree with A, that his work is widely misinterpreted and is misused? Not mentioned anywhere in the passage. Do you see it mentioned somewhere? No. Well, let's look at B. Claims about the human thing has been interpreted in different ways. Yes, that is true according to the second paragraph. Thucydides believed that his work could be used for understanding the present and the future. True. Yep, the very first paragraph where he said that my work is for all times, right? And not what, it was a really fabulous line. Let me just read it here. It's so nice. So the sentence was, where did that go? Let me just refer to it once. My work was written as a possession for all time, not a piece of entertainment for the moment. So yes. And then D. Yep, once again mentioned. So A is the one that is not mentioned or cannot be inferred, and therefore we should go ahead and choose A as our answer. So that takes care of our passage. Now we did this one thing differently today, where before we moved over to the questions, I ran you through the passage cursorily once again. Do you think I should continue to do that, or would you rather not have me do that? So do share that feedback. That's really very important. That tells me what kind of approach you personally would find more beneficial. Okay, so do let me know of that too. And now that we are done with that, so I'll wait for your response. It's important to get that feedback. There's generally a lag of around 15-17 seconds. And if there is one thing that I've learned in life, is that it is always important to have that two-way conversation going so that we know exactly what we want. There is this very famous, I wouldn't say famous, but there is a very nice couplet by Bashir Badr that I read years ago, and that was, मैं चुप रहा तो और गलत फहमियाँ बढ़ी, मैं चुप रहा तो और गलत फहमियाँ बढ़ी, वो भी सुना है उसने जो मैंने कहा नहीं. So if you don't talk, it can lead to sub-ideal processes, right? So you should tell me, and then we'd do it. Because see, the problem is when I run you through that, I in a way explain certain things which are likely to make the questions easier for you. But then once we are done with all the questions, then going back to the passage does not make sense. So I'm just trying to figure out the right kind of balance so that we are able to do both of these things. So let's see. Let's see. Okay, so great. So after questions, so you okay that I do that after taking you through the questions? We'd spend around 3-4 minutes interpreting the passage if it is a passage that people find challenging. So I'll leave it to you, right? Once we are done with the questions, then I'll ask and then I can start going back to the passage, right? So let's see. So now let's move over to our next set. 2 questions, both of them are actual CAT questions. They are para-jumbles, as you can see in the directions, so you are not going to get options. You'd have to work your way through these and share the sequence with me. Okay, Sri, you can always view the passage again, right? YouTube allows you to refer to relevant parts. You can always use the seeker to go to the relevant part. So here is your question number 6, a para-jumble. Have a look at it and tell me what you think. So answers. Slightly tricky this is, eh? Okay, so let's go ahead and discuss it. Now, if I look at the second sentence, so the entire passage focus, or the entire paragraph rather, focuses on the access through the northwest passage. Now, when I look at sentence 2, this introduces the passage, and therefore, if I have to think of it as a puzzle, so typically what I do is that I just say that, okay, I need to make 4 sentences sit in a line. So I would say that 2 should definitely come before the rest of the sentences because the northwest passage is being introduced here. Then if I look at this, the US and Canada, 4th sentence, US and Canada have never legally settled the question of access. And then 3rd, the dispute. If I look at these 2 things, in order to present these, we need to have 2 different stances. We need to have a scope for disagreement. We need to have a scope for dispute. So according to 2nd, Canada claims sovereignty. According to 1st, US says that it is an international state. So 3rd and 4th both can only come after 1st. And therefore, let's put 1st here. Now the question is 3-4 or 4-3. So between the 2, 4th says that they happen to have an agreement where the US needs to seek Canada's consent for any transit. But then 3rd says the dispute could be transitory. Now, although no dispute has been presented or mentioned in this paragraph, maybe it was someplace before the paragraph, or maybe, and the IAMs, we know them, they do not really give us all the 4 sentences from the same paragraph always, okay? They can actually switch to. So third should come after fourth, because third says that okay, all this discussion will be meaningless because they not even have to use the Northwest Passage, right? And therefore I will prefer 4 before 3 and not 3 4. So that's our correct answer, 2 1 4 3. Come to think of it, if you put 3 before 4, what is the relevance of 4 now? In third, you've already said, yeah, this is going to be meaningless, and then you once again go and they legally settled. Why would they legally settle something that has already been stated as a meaningless thing now? Okay. So here is your next question. Himanshu, I did not. Why 2 before 1? Because 2 introduced the passage, the Northwest Passage. Okay, so let us check. I think there is this one connection that we should have found easily, and that is look at fourth, which talks about this invention, and look at first, which talks about an invention. So we know that fourth is referring to the invention mentioned in first, right? Is there any other? Okay, third has the greatest of all inventions is the Uber invention. Uber basically means extremely successful or extremely important. Okay, it's usually put before a noun. That has provided the insights on which others depend, the modern scientific method. But then look at for this invention is inconceivable without the scientific method. So scientific method is introduced in third. It has to come after third for sure. But then in this particular case, they are using the invention of the scientific method to invent something else, and that is why 1 and 4 have to go in together. 3 must come before. So I'd have no hesitation in putting 3, 1, 4. Now the question is, where does 2 go? So there are two possibilities. So think it over. Where would you want to put 2? 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 1, 4, 2. And this is where our comprehension skills, our interpretation skills will come into picture. How? If you look at 2, it is the definition of the scientific method. So what is scientific method? Logic plus questions plus tests plus observations plus analysis. So third talks about the modern scientific method, and second gives you a definition of that modern scientific method. Thereafter 1 and 4 can be the implication of that method and the way it helps us coming up with new inventions that can change the world as we know it. And therefore we should put it immediately next to, so we should put the sentence 2 immediately next to sentence 3, and thus, just to clear it all, 3214 should be the answer. So once again, the approach is read all the sentences, look at the word-based clues and the ideas that every sentence conveys. Pick up one clue at a time, use that to connect it with something else. Think of it as a puzzle, okay? It may take you long today. It may at times take you 4, 5, 6 minutes today. But this practice, this rigorous thinking is what is making you better in parajumbles, right? So you don't even need to attempt a lot of questions. Even if you go through, say, 5 parajumbles a day with this approach, I think you would actually end up learning a lot. Okay? So that's about the questions that I had for you, but here is something for our mind as well. Is a food for the mind, some lesson that I find important. You carry the passport to your own happiness. There are a lot of other things that we do, and the eventual goal of those is happiness, and you do need to realize that you do not depend on anyone else to create that happiness within you. You control your inner climate no matter what. Okay, and that's independent of the situations, circumstances. If you want more practice, head over to the app where we upload a daily section-wise quiz, so you can put in a little more of that practice. Then please don't forget to register for this session that's happening on 17th of June, where GB will be in conversation with Vipula, who's converted IIM Ahmedabad. So it's always a good idea to learn from the people who have made it there and the mistakes that they made and the way they tackled those mistakes. Going to be pretty useful. And then if you want to be one among the toppers, do consider joining our program. There are 2 things that we are doing to make it easy for you. A scholarship test on 25th of June that can help you shave off 90% of the course fees, and of course the trial that can tell you, that can convince you that the course is absolutely worth it. So don't forget to like the session if you found it useful, and I'd once again see you in a couple of days with our next session together. So that's it from me today. Stay safe, stay focused, stay in touch. Until I see you next, have a great day and a great time ahead. Take care.